Senator Eric Schmitt just exploded at a colleague across the aisle, and he had had enough. The hearing was about denaturalization. The bill, known as the Scam Act, would make it easier to strip citizenship from naturalized immigrants who commit serious crimes, terrorism, espionage, cartel activity, large-scale welfare fraud. Currently, denaturalization is only possible within 5 years of citizenship.
Under current law, joining a terrorist organization is grounds for denaturalization, but only if that occurs within 5 years.
The Scam Act would extend that to 10 years. It would also add fraud to the list of qualifying crimes. Senator Mazie Hirono had spoken before him. She called parts of the bill horrific and bizarre. She said naturalized citizens should be afraid. Schmitt had heard enough. He said it is not bizarre to deport violent murderers and rapists. It is not bizarre to deport people who came to this country and ripped off taxpayers. What is bizarre, he said, is defending those people. What is bizarre is fear-mongering about naturalized citizens when the bill is about convicted criminals.
Bizarre is the idea that you would be here in this committee defending violent murderers from being deported, that you would be defending violent rapists from being deported, that you would defend people who took advantage of the good people of this country of their taxpayer dollars. That is bizarre.
He then walked through specific cases. Mirsad Ramik was approved for naturalization in 2009. At his ceremony, he refused to recite the oath of allegiance. Instead, he recited an Islamic oath and cursed all non-Muslims. He was naturalized anyway. He later joined ISIS and participated in atrocities that killed more than 100,000 people.
So Ramik later joins ISIS and participates in atrocities that killed more than 100,000 people. Is that correct?
He did participate in ISIS battles, yes.
Okay.
Another man, a naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone, was convicted of attempting to carry out an attack on behalf of ISIS. He was released from prison. He was not denaturalized. He was not deported. Instead, he committed a terrorist attack in Virginia and killed a lieutenant colonel. Schmitt's question was simple. Should these people be American citizens? His answer was no. Denaturalize them, deport them, and change the law so it does not happen again. Let's watch.
It's more than astounding. It should be unconstitutional. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of astounding, your comments are astounding, Senator. You mentioned a few words, horrific. I think to the American taxpayer that's been ripped off by people who came to this country, to rip them off, that's horrific. You talk about bizarre. No, it's my time now. It's my time. You went over time. It's my time. Bizarre is the idea that you would be here in this committee defending violent murderers from being deported, that you would be defending violent rapists from being deported, that you would defend people who took advantage of the good people of this country of their taxpayer dollars. That is bizarre. A terrorist who kills American citizens, you know what's bizarre is your defense of that. So forgive me if your 24 million Americans should be, or naturalized citizens should be afraid. That's ridiculous. You have no. You have nothing but fear-mongering here. What I'm saying in this bill is, if you do those things to the American people, if you take advantage of taxpayers, you're not recognized. If you commit a terrorist act, if you commit wholesale welfare fraud, within 10 years, you're damn right we're deporting you. If you're convicted, it's not being accused of anything. If you are convicted in a court of law of these crimes, absolutely we should not only convict you, but we should deport you. Gone. And if you think that's some sort of like negative assertion towards me, I'll take it. I love it. That's what we should be doing more of in this country, because people are coming here and they're ripping off taxpayers. And I, for one, don't want to see it anymore. And if you want to have that debate in public, we can do it, but that's what this hearing is about, to examine the Scam Act. So I'd just like to expose a few of your lies in your most recent dissertation on the dais here. So, Mr. Cuccinelli, I want to ask you, federal naturalization law requires prospective citizens to show good moral character, attachment to the Constitution, and a disposition towards the good order and happiness of the United States, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So a naturalized citizen who later joins ISIS spies for our enemies, joins a cartel, or steals millions from American taxpayers through fraud raises the simple question of whether that person actually met the requirements for citizenship, right?
It does, yes.
And really, on many of these instances, you're building on the 5 years to 10 years, right? I mean, within 5 years,
That's right. That's the biggest difference.
That's the biggest difference
Plus
here.
adding the fraud pieces.
So I want to use, with the time that I have, let's make this a little bit more concrete. And you referenced this individual. I want to start by addressing the case of Mirsad Ramic. Mirsad Ramic was approved for naturalization in 2009, but refused the oath, refused to cite the oath of allegiance at his naturalization ceremony, and instead recited the Islamic oath and cursed all non-Muslims. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that Mr. Ramic at that point was attached to the principles of the Constitution and well-disposed to the good order and happiness of the United States?
Quite the opposite.
Okay. But he was allowed to be naturalized anyway, correct?
He was.
Okay.
A factory line fashion, undoubtedly.
Yes. So Ramic later joins ISIS and participates in atrocities that killed more than 100,000 people. Is that correct?
He did participate in ISIS battles, yes.
Okay. Do you think that Mr. Ramic joining ISIS and engaging in terrorism with a few years of becoming a citizen is evidence that he was not attached to the principles of the Constitution at the time of his naturalization?
It certainly is, yes.
Okay. So I want to talk about the terrorists at Old Dominion. This man was born in Sierra Leone and became a naturalized citizen. He was then convicted of attempting to carry out an attack on behalf of ISIS, but he was released from prison back onto the streets of the United States rather than denaturalized and deported, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And the consequence of the U.S. legal system allowing him to roam free in our country rather than denaturalizing him and deporting him was that he was able to commit a terrorist attack involving an ROTC program in Virginia, killing a lieutenant colonel. Is that correct?
Yes,
yeah.
he did.
This is just the absurdity. I actually think this is sort of a common sense solution here, but that's where we are. Mr. Fishman, I want to ask you, under current law, joining a terrorist organization is grounds for denaturalization, but only if that occurs within 5 years, correct? 5 years of the naturalization?
Yes, and it's also a rebuttable presumption. The naturalized citizen is free to present evidence that no, in fact, he did support the Constitution in the trial.
So, but in this instance, Jallo joining ISIS occurred more than 5 years after his naturalization. So denaturalization, current law wouldn't cover him, correct?
Under current law.
Correct. And even if he had been denaturalized, the Supreme Court has interpreted the immigration statutes to not permit that conduct as deportable offense, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But that was a statutory holding by the court, so Congress, and this is the point, Congress is free to change that, correct?
Well, the courts indicated Congress is free to lower the government's burden of proof in these cases. The question of how long post-naturalization an act can occur and still relate back, that will be the Supreme Court telling us.
Correct. And that's why I think it's important to note that the SCAM Act includes a provision that abrogates that erroneous holding and would ensure that terrorists like Jallo are denaturalized and deported. I want to now recognize...
Could I comment, Senator?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Fishman noted correctly the rebuttable presumption. I think post-naturalization, anything you do will be subject to a rebuttable presumption based on the Supreme Court's history of rulings in this area. I do not think you'll ever have the constitutional authority like you do on the front end of naturalization. Congress has near plenary power to not give an individual the opportunity to rebut the presumption raised within the law, just based on the existing, long time, really, Supreme Court precedent.
Yep. Senator Welch.
This hearing is a masterclass in how to cut through political rhetoric and focus on the facts. Senator Eric Schmitt did not come to play nice. He came to expose what he sees as a systematic failure to protect Americans from criminals who exploited the immigration system. The exchange began with Senator Hirono. She had called parts of the bill horrific and bizarre. She said naturalized citizens should be afraid. Schmitt was having none of it. He said, "It is not bizarre to deport violent murderers. It is not bizarre to deport violent rapists. It is not bizarre to deport people who ripped off American taxpayers. What is bizarre," he said, "is defending those people." Schmitt then walked through specific cases. The first was Mirsad Ramich. He was approved for naturalization in 2009. At his ceremony, he refused to recite the oath of allegiance. Instead, he recited an Islamic oath and cursed all non-Muslims. He was naturalized anyway. He later joined ISIS and participated in atrocities that killed more than 100,000 people. Schmitt asked the witness, "Do you think Ramich was attached to the principles of the Constitution?" The witness said quite the opposite. Schmitt asked if he should have been naturalized. The witness did not say yes. He said he was. The second case was a naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone. He was convicted of attempting to carry out an attack on behalf of ISIS. He was released from prison. He was not denaturalized. He was not deported. He then committed a terrorist attack involving a drone program in Virginia. He killed a lieutenant colonel. That death was preventable. The system had a chance to remove him. It did not. Schmitt then turned to the law. Current law allows denaturalization for joining a terrorist organization, but only if it happens within 5 years of naturalization. If it happens after 5 years, the government cannot act. The Scam Act would extend that window to 10 years. It would also add fraud to the list of qualifying crimes. Schmitt argued that this is common sense. If someone commits these crimes, they should lose their citizenship. They should be deported. The witnesses agreed. Dr. Cuccinelli said that naturalization requires good moral character and attachment to the Constitution. Joining ISIS is evidence that those requirements were not met. Mr. Fisherman explained that Congress has the power to change the law. The Supreme Court has not barred it. The only barrier is the current statute. Congress can fix that. Schmitt's closing argument was the most important part of the exchange. He said the Scam Act includes a provision that abrogates the erroneous holding of the courts. It would ensure that terrorists are denaturalized and deported. He did not say that every immigrant is a criminal. He did not say that naturalized citizens should be afraid. He said that people who commit specific, serious crimes should not be allowed to keep their citizenship. That is not fear-mongering. That is accountability. The underlying issue here is not about immigration. It is about public safety. It is about whether the government has the tools to remove people who pose a threat. The current law is too narrow. It is too weak. It allows terrorists to keep their citizenship if they waited more than 5 years before attacking. It allows fraudsters to keep their citizenship because fraud is not a qualifying crime. The Scam Act would change that. Schmitt is right. If you commit a terrorist act, you should be deported. If you commit large-scale welfare fraud, you should be deported. If you spy for our enemies, you should be deported. That is not radical. That is common sense. The emotional reaction from the other side of the aisle is understandable. Immigration is a sensitive issue. Naturalized citizens have the same rights as native-born citizens. But those rights come with responsibilities. One of those responsibilities is obeying the law. Another is not joining terrorist organizations. Another is not defrauding the government. When those responsibilities are violated, citizenship can be revoked. That is not a new idea. That is the law. The Scam Act simply extends the timeline and expands the categories. It does not target innocent people. It targets convicted criminals. And if that makes some senators uncomfortable, Schmitt is right to call them out.